The rain slid down the windows in quiet streaks, blurring the city lights into soft smudges of gold and red. Inside the jazz bar, dimly lit by flickering sconces and the occasional pulse of neon, the air was thick with saxophone notes and the low hum of half-empty conversations. I sat alone at the corner booth, the leather worn and familiar beneath my palms. It had been years since I'd heard her name, let alone expected to see her again. Then the door opened. She walked in like a memory I hadn't earned the right to revisit, hair darker than I remembered, eyes with the same guarded fire. She didn't scan the room. She knew where I was. And when she slid into the seat across from me, the space between us dissolved into something dense and electric. She sat so close. I forgot the world around me. "Hi, Eli," she said, voice low, barely above the bass line of the band. "Maya," I whispered her name like it was dangerous. Maybe it was. We hadn't spoken in 8 years. Not since the night she left New York with a suitcase full of broken dreams and the apology I was too proud to ask for. "I didn't think you'd come," I said. "I almost didn't." She glanced at the drink menu, then at me. "But you sounded different on the phone." I hadn't meant to call her. It was one of those nights, too much bourbon, too many unsent messages. But she'd answered. And now here she was, looking like every decision I hadn't made. We ordered drinks. Silence filled the space between us, heavy with things unsaid. I tried to focus on the music, the clink of glass, the way her hand rested on the table, fingers brushing mine for a second too long. "Why did you really call me?" she asked. "I'm not sure," I said, but I was lying. Because I'd seen her in every silhouette on a rainy street. Because I never stopped wondering if she found the love she deserved, or if I had ruined that for her. The storm outside had grown bolder. Thunder cracked across the skyline, and the band took a break, leaving behind the residue of a song half-finished. We moved to the bar's upstairs lounge, a quieter, more private space where shadows wrapped around us like old secrets. "Remember that summer in Brooklyn?" she asked, her lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "When we couldn't afford air conditioning, so we just laid on the floor with ice cubes and bad poetry?" "You mean your poetry," I said. "Mine was worse than bad." She laughed, soft, surprised. "I still have the napkin you wrote on. The one with the line about the girl who could burn down the moon with her silence." I blinked. "I thought you threw it away." "I almost did. 100 times." Her voice broke slightly on the last word. And just like that, we were no longer in a lounge in Midtown. We were 24 again, too young, too stubborn, too scared to call what we had love. As the night deepened, so did our conversation. We danced around the wreckage of our past like people tiptoeing through a minefield, careful not to step on old pain. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she said suddenly. "Leaving." I turned to her, eyes narrowing. "You didn't even say goodbye. You wouldn't have let me go if I had." Silence. She looked down, and I saw the glint of a necklace, mine or what used to be. A simple chain with a silver pendant she once joked protected her from heartbreak. "You still wear it?" I asked. She nodded. "Some wounds are easier to carry than erase." A long pause. Then, softly, "Are you still with her?" "No. We ended a year ago." I took a breath. "I never told her about you." She looked up at me, and for a second, her walls cracked. "You were always good at burying things. And you were always good at running from them." The words stung, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she reached for her drink, her fingers trembling just enough for me to notice. "I came back to New York 6 months ago," she said. "Didn't tell anyone." "Why?" "To see if the ghosts were still here." "And are they?" She looked at me then. "One of them is." We walked out into the rain sometime after midnight, neither of us ready to say goodbye. She didn't offer to go to her place. I didn't ask her to come to mine. We just walked, side by side, soaked and speechless, through the sleeping city. "Do you think we could ever," I started, then stopped. "Be what we were," she finished. I nodded. "I don't know," she said. But maybe that's not the question we should be asking. What should we ask then? If we still want to be. We stopped under the canopy of a closed cafe. Her hair clung to her face, her coat heavy with rain, and still, she was the most alive thing I'd seen in years. She reached out, brushing her fingertips along the inside of my wrist. A simple gesture. Barely a touch. But it set every nerve in my body on fire. We were never ordinary, she whispered. No, I agreed. We were a beautiful disaster. Maybe this time we can be just beautiful. The next night, she invited me to her apartment, a fourth-floor walk-up in the village, with cracked wood floors and a piano that hadn't been tuned in years. She played something soft, haunting. A piece I remembered but couldn't name. You still play, I said. Only when I'm trying to remember who I am. I sat beside her on the bench. Close. Too close. The kind of close where you feel someone's heartbeat more than hear it. I missed you, Eli, she said. Not just the you from back then. This you. The quieter one. I missed you too, I said. In every version. She stopped playing. And in the silence that followed, I saw everything: her pain, her fear, her hope. She leaned into me then, her head resting against my shoulder like it belonged there. She sat so close. I forgot the world around me. Weeks passed like seconds. We fell into a rhythm: coffee at midnight, piano sessions at dawn, long walks where we spoke without filters. There was a calm between us now, but also tension, a magnetic pull of what we hadn't yet acted on. Then one evening, I found a letter in her drawer. Dated 5 years ago. Never sent. It read, Eli, I lied when I said I left because I needed a fresh start. I left because I was terrified that loving you would never be enough for either of us. You saw me too clearly, and I wasn't ready to be known that way. I thought if I disappeared, it would hurt less than staying. But the truth is, leaving you was the hardest thing I've ever done. I still dream about your voice. About the way we laughed before the world got too loud. I don't know if you'll ever read this. But if you do, please know I never stopped loving you. Maya, I didn't tell her I read it. I just waited until the moment felt right. And when it did, I held her hand, kissed her forehead, and whispered, I would have waited forever for you to come back. We didn't fall back into each other. We rose, tentatively, deliberately, into something new. Something earned. But life isn't without its storms. Maya's mother fell ill. She almost left again, out of habit. I told her I'd come with her. She cried for the first time in front of me. You don't have to do that, she said. I want to, I replied. Let me stay, even when it's hard. And that's when I knew we were no longer the people we used to be. We were the people we became after the falling. One morning, 6 months later, we sat on the windowsill of her apartment, bare feet tangled, the piano quiet behind us. The sun spilled gold across her skin, and she leaned her head against mine. I don't know what this will look like in a year, she said. Neither do I. But I know I want to keep choosing you. And maybe that was love. Not the grand declarations or the fiery starts, but the quiet, stubborn promise to keep choosing someone, even when the world outside forgets you exist. She sat so close. And for once, the world could wait.